Welcome to the Zach of All Trades. This afternoon I'm going to be showing how to mount a new scope along with a laser and a flashlight combo onto the scope, and then how to sight it all in and get it ready to fire or ready to shoot. This is my 17. I use it for a lot of small game hunting. The reason I'm doing the laser and the flashlight, I do some varmint hunting at night with the dogs, so that comes in pretty handy, especially with hunting raccoons, stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is a laser bore sighter. There's 101 different flavors of these. They come in cartridges that you actually put into the firearm, close it, and it'll sight right down the barrel. Those get to be a little more expensive. These just have an adapter, and you pick the adapter for the caliber of rifle, place it in the end of the barrel, and sight in from there. These aren't quite as accurate as the cartridge type, but they'll definitely get you a lot closer than if you were to just put the scope on, go out and start shooting and trying to sight in from there. So highly recommended. You can get these at any sporting goods store, online. A million different places carry these. So if they have firearms or firearm equipment, they'll have some variety of these. Another thing is with something as simple as this, you shouldn't need a whole lot of tools. On hand here I just have a interchangeable screwdriver with a Phillips head and flathead bit set there. If you were doing this out in the field in an emergency or something, Swiss Army knives, they're indispensable. This one has the flathead and the Phillips head blades on them, so that works really nice just to have. Also, when I go out to sight out in the field, some of these have to be adjusted with a flathead screwdriver. This just, you put it in your pocket and it works plenty good. So maybe looking to get one of those. Also, I have an Allen wrench set. A lot of times scopes are mounted with Allen wrenches or hex key, so not a bad idea to have one of these on hand. And the new scope should have the same Allen wrench as the one I'm going to take off, so I'll probably just go ahead and rob the one out of there. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get everything opened up and get ready to be put on, and then I'll show you the process of how to put it on and then how to sight it in. So sun's starting to go down here, so hopefully we can have this done, go outside this evening right before dark when we got low light conditions, be able to see that laser really well, and get this sighted in tonight. And from there we'll be doing some small game hunting. So another thing is, firearms aren't toys. Always, before you do any kind of work on a firearm, make sure it's unloaded, leave your action open. You'll want to check down the action, make sure there's not a shell in there, magazine's out, and that it is on safety. The red dot will be fire. You don't want to see that red dot, you'll want the S. So let's go ahead and I'll get these opened up and we'll get started. Okay, so we're back here. Turns out the scope that's on there is actually a Torx bit, so I went ahead and got that my bit driver there. First thing I do once I take a new scope out of the packaging is always just look down through and make sure that its crosshairs are aligned, they're not crooked, they're not broken, the glass isn't broken, because you hate to put it on and then have it not working. Same thing with the laser. The batteries came with it. I just installed them. I don't think you guys needed to see me do that, but anyway, flashlight works, laser works, all the components seem to be there. So the neat thing about these lasers too is they also come with finger foregrip, so when you're holding the rifle you can actually just squeeze these and turn it on. I don't particularly like them just because of the fact that these cords get tangled up when you're out running through the timber chasing after dogs and coons. They tend to get tangled up, so I'm going to go ahead and leave those off. Another thing that I really recommend when you open packaging for scopes and any kind of firearm accessories, try to open it so you can repackage it just in case it is broken, and hold on to this for a while until you know that the scope is sound. That way if you need to return it, it's easily, you can put it back in the package, take it back to the store with your receipt, and shouldn't be any problems with that. So anyway, we're going to go ahead, get the old scope off, and start getting everything else put back on. And when you buy a new rifle, this one here, as you can tell, there's no rear iron sights. It didn't come with iron sights, so it was specifically made for a scope. And sometimes if you buy a new rifle, keep in mind that you'll have to buy the correct scope mounts for that rifle, because the new scope doesn't come with those. So if you're starting from scratch here and you have a brand new rifle, go ahead and make sure that you got the mounts for it too, and your sales associate at the gun store should be able to get you lined up there. The other reason I'm changing the scopes out is I actually dropped this hunting one night and it dinged the crosshairs up in there. They're not aligned anymore, so this will just go to the scope graveyard, unfortunately. But these little 22 scopes are not that expensive, and you can usually get a pretty decent one for relatively cheap. So as you can see here now, the bars on the scope mounts, there's this groove. There's a screw that actually is going to sit inside of that. So on here it doesn't have it. It actually appears that it just clamps onto the side, which actually will be pretty nice here, because it looks like it's already pretty much in line with where I want it to be. So anyway, give me a second here. I need to grab a screwdriver and get these loosened up, and I'll be right back. The other thing to keep in mind when you're mounting a scope is you want the scope to be, when you have it at your shoulder, especially on a high power rimfire, it's not that big of a deal because there's not much recoil, but on a high power rifle, always make sure that that scope is going to clear your eye when you pull the trigger in that recoil. Make sure that that scope is not going to come back and hit you in the eye, because I've seen a lot of guys get a new scope, they throw it on, they've got it clear back on the shoulder, fire it for the first time, and next thing you know they got a black eye, and their wife wonders where they were at that night before. So anyway, and they're not allowed to go hunting with you anymore or target shooting. So all you guys out there, make sure that when you're putting that on, you get it adjusted about where you want it. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this on there real quick, put it to my shoulder and see if it's about where I want it. Just by putting it on there at the moment here, it looks like it's going to be about the same. So we'll get it put on there. I'll give it the quick fit test, and we'll go from there. Also, if you I have a vise, I just don't want to drag it inside here, but if you have a vise, you can put the gun in a towel, set it down in the vise, tighten it down just enough to hold it. You don't want to wrench it down, but it'll give you a little better control of, free up a hand for you. Looks like we're going to have to go this route. Okay, well, option number one is a no-go. I'm actually kind of glad this happened on video here, just for the sake that not everything goes as planned. So what it is this is made for a rail on a 22. When you buy a 22, they're usually manufactured pre-grooved for a scope, and that's why it's not going wide enough for the scope mount. So instead of wasting time here and having to go back to the store or whatnot, I'm just going to take the scope mounts that came with it off, and then I'm going to put the ones that were on the previous rifle onto this one. Bear with me here if you would. Always take one off at a time, and the reason I do that is so that you can set it on a level surface. And what that'll do is, at the factory they put the mounts on so that the crosshairs are aligned to the scope. So by taking one off at a time, you can set it on a surface, put your new mount on, make sure it's set down in there, and then you can tighten that down. And then once you get that tightened down, you can take off the other one, put the next one on, and those crosshairs should still be vertical and horizontal. So I'm going to go ahead and get these swapped out, and we'll be back with you. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done is I actually just, I don't know if you can see, you can pretty much see just from the dust there where the old scope mounts were, and I matched this one up. None of this is really tightened down yet. I just matched it up, put it to my shoulder, and made sure that the crosshairs were still vertical with the firearm, nice and horizontal. They match up nice. I can see the full range of view within the scope when it's at my shoulder and I'm looking down it. You don't want, you'll know if it's too far forward or too far back because you'll have a bubble and you'll only be able to see maybe 3/4 of the view or 1/4 of the view depending on how you're holding it. So that's how you determine whether the scope needs to come back, forward, just by when you naturally pick the gun up to your shoulder, you want to be able to see down it. So if you look here, you can actually see I'm tight on this side, and on this side it's still loose. It's just like when you change your tire, you want to tighten down equally on both sides. So what I'll do is I'll loosen this side just a touch, go about a turn, and then as you can see I have a small gap there. So at this point I'll just go ahead and tighten it down equally on equal turns on both sides. Get that cinched down. And I was thinking about it there after a minute, and I did end up having to buy the scope rings with the scope mounts. It was a full kit, so that's why the factory rings on that previous scope didn't line up. So anyway, you don't want to wrench these down tight to the point that it's going to dent the scope or break the scope, because there's gases in that scope, and you don't want to ruin it anyway. So anyway, got it on there pretty straight. One side's just a shade, one gap's just a shade bigger. So go ahead and try to straighten that out, and it looks like we're getting pretty darn close. So the other thing is too, is if you tighten one side all the way down and then go and tighten the other side down, it's actually going to turn that scope in the mounts. That's why you want to do both sides equal turns, and that'll keep that scope nice and level on the rifle. One more quick look down, and nice and straight. Mounts look good. So what I will go ahead and do is I'm actually going to spin these off real quick just to show, since I put it on there before I started the video again. Basically, if you loosen these, that scope will just roll off of there. And once again, there's that bar that sits in that valley. So what you'll want to do is the side that you loosen, the side that doesn't loosen, hook it over, pull it over, push forward and back, make sure it's sitting down in that groove, everything's locked together, and just tighten it up. And it's that simple. Now after we get these tightened up, we'll go ahead and start getting the laser assembled, get it put on. Alright, so we got the scope on. Now we'll go ahead and get the laser put on. Just go ahead and, best thing to do is just take the Allen screws that are in the laser. Go ahead and take them completely out here. There's no reason to get in too big of a hurry. These things all just take time and money. pull those out, and my personal preference is I like the laser opposite A of the ejection port. You put it on this side. You know, if this weren't a bolt action, maybe a semi-auto, the laser might do better back here. Also, if this scope, you know, the way it fits on this rifle, it's slid back quite a ways, you could also put it up here where it would clear the ejection port. Then it'd be alright to put it on this side. The other thing is the elevation dial. It'll be in the way of that, so best thing to do is put it on that side. The other reason I put it over there is when you're holding the rifle in your right hand, you can use your left hand to turn everything on, the light and the laser. Just go ahead and lean it up like I've got it now, and then put the screws back in it. And just snug them down enough to where you can still turn the laser and get it dialed in to where you want it sitting on the scope there. The other thing is too, you know, it can also be put up top. That's another option. Some guys do that. I find that when you put it up there, you're starting to get a lot of stuff built up above that scope. A little more stuff a little more in the way, can get caught on some stuff. So off to the side is kind of my preference. There's no wrong way to do this though. And once you get it kind of snug down, the other thing is too is you can on this, nice, tighten it down a little too much there. I'm going to center it about between the distance of the scope ring and the elevation windage dials there. I'm going to center it, and then I'll look down the rifle, get it lined up with the scope a little bit better, just for good looks purposes. I like the way that looks there. And then once again, same thing as when you're putting the scope on, tighten one side and then move to the other. Equal turns, and make sure you get everything bolted down nice and tight. Don't over tighten, but tight enough it can endure whatever may happen to it out in the field. All these should come tight. I like to just double check them. See, that one was a shade loose. That one was alright. That one was a shade loose. Get those nice and tight. Laser works. Flashlight works. Scope's mounted. And now all we have left is get the bore sighter set up. And we will get it sighted in, bore sighted. And this old girl should be ready to go. So I've got the laser bore sighter set up. All it is a 17 HMR adapter, and you push it down in the barrel, and as you can see, the laser's on right there. I got to thinking about it. You know, it's going to be pretty hard on video here to actually try to film and show what's going on in the scope. So I just decided what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just describe it here. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment on the video, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. It's just going to be too hard to get the camera inside the scope and show you what I'm seeing. So I drew a quick illustration here, and basically what this is when you're looking in the scope there, you're going to have your crosshair, and that's what it's going to look like in the scope. Like I say, I go about 50 yards when I sight in my smaller caliber rifles, 100 yards on my high power, and then I build up from there depending on what kind of range I think I'm going to be shooting. So right now what I did is I stepped outside and about 50 yards out, that's what the laser looks like through the scope. So that's what you're going to want to do. Is you're going to want to, as soon as you get this set up, turn your laser on, point the laser down 50 yards downrange. You don't need a target. All you need is just something for that laser to hit that's at the range you want. So if you want to sight in at 50 yards, put a board or something up at 50 yards, put the laser on that board, and then look at it through the scope. If you want to put your gun in a vise, shooting stand, anything like that to help stabilize it, to really dial in, go for it. I'll probably end up putting a bipod on this just to stabilize it a little more. So basically what this is telling me is I'm a little high. So what I'll do when I go back outside is I'll adjust this and bring that crosshair down. And that's this dial here. And that'll drop my elevation down. It was a shade off when I looked down it. It was a little to the left. This adjusts your left to right here. So actually, that's not correct. This adjusts your height. This adjusts your left to right. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, as you can see on there, it says left. Left is clockwise. Up is counterclockwise on this. So sorry about the confusion there. Some scopes are different, so read the instructions, whatever. But anyway, so what I'll do is I'll go out, I'll look at it, see where it's aimed, see where the laser's at, and adjust this. Tell that laser, initially what you're shooting for is you want that laser, when you're looking down range, you want that laser to end up dead center of your crosshairs there. Then once I get the crosshairs lined up with the bore sighter, the laser bore sighter, then what I'll do is I'll take the bore sighter out. Won't need that anymore. And then once again I'll turn this laser on, look down range, and look through the scope again and see where that laser's at, and I'll adjust this laser to the crosshair of the scope. And the way to do that is with the Allen wrench that they sent. Your left to right and your elevation are right there. You just turn them with the Allen wrench. It's that simple. So basis, when you're doing this kind of setup, get your scope sighted in. Even after you bore sight it with the laser, fire a couple rounds, make sure you're hitting where you want to hit, make your adjustments, then go to this laser. So once the scope's dialed in, you can dial the laser in to the scope. Makes it a lot simpler. So that's basically how I can break it down. I really wanted to try to show how I do it looking down the scope, but for the video's sake, the sake of confusion and frustration, this is the best I can do it. Like I say, if there's any questions, comment, and I'll get back to you with with my best answer. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, please subscribe, please comment any questions you have, and once I get it sighted in, I might do a little clip of me just shooting and then show the target after I've got everything sighted in. Maybe do something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This was Zach of All Trades. Have a good evening. So quick update, went outside, took the bore sighter, had it in the barrel. It was 45 yards from where I was sitting to the edge of my fence. Moved the crosshairs to the laser. It looks just like that. That's how you want it, is the laser dead center of the crosshairs. I then turned off the bore sighter, took it out of the barrel, and turned on the laser on the rifle, and ended up moving the laser that's attached to the scope. It was kind of down and over here, so I moved it up and over, and now it's in the same part of the crosshairs that the bore sighter was. So I'm going to run out real quick, run out to the farm and shoot a couple rounds at a target, and to see exactly how close I was with the bore sighter. The only thing I'm going to take is the rifle, the Swiss Army knife, so I can adjust windage and elevation. Take a few rounds, and if I get 5 rounds pretty consistent in a nice tight pattern, I'm going to go ahead and call it good. I'll bring the target back, show a quick video of the target, and we'll call this video a wrap. So thanks for watching. Well, just got back from the range here. These were the first 5 rounds. This is after I had sighted it in with the laser sight. So obviously, you know, put it on paper. I then adjusted, shot 10 rounds, and put it there, and then adjusted again, put me on this next circle, and then I got 3 in the bullseye, that one, and I believe this one down here were the last 5 I shot. So just kind of goes to show you that, you know, had I just gone out and blindly shot it without using the sight, the laser sighter, it would have probably wouldn't even been on the box, and it would have been a guessing game. So just kind of goes to prove that it's a good thing to definitely at least bore sight it, and then go out, put it on paper, and make your final adjustments. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoy it. Please subscribe, please like. Any questions or comments, leave them in the comment box, and I'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.